Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Jason Goff Friday. Jason Goff of the Ringer. What's going on, man?
What's happening, man? Wait a minute now. Foxworth Friday is cemented in the Bomani / Podcast Hall of Fame. So I feel, it's kind of like Jake Plummer following up a legend here. I don't want no problems out here, okay?
I feel you. It's even worse than Jake Plummer. That would make you Bubby Brister. Not Bubby Brister. It was Brian Greasy. Bubby Brister thought it was going to be his chance, and then Brian Greasy came up, and that didn't take very long.
Shout out to national champion Brian Greasy.
You are correct. My fault. Half a national champion, Brian Greasy. Simply a half a national champion. But it's very important because if he had not gotten that half a national championship, we would then be saying national champion Ryan Leaf. Oh no, he wasn't being a champion. They just played him in the Rose Bowl.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
There we go.
Also, Brian Greasy of Chicago Bears fame when the headset went out, and I believe it was Ron Turner who was his offensive coordinator, and he came into the post-game press conference like, that last drive was all me. I was calling plays. And then the Bears, as they are apt to do, said, hey, you can't do that. And then look, 20 years later, they did it to Justin Fields. So, shout out to the Bears.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Bears and things around the Bears in just a second. But first, congratulations to this man. You know what I'm saying? Fun story. Jason Goff is going to finally get to meet Goff in person, right? Goff is going to be in New York City. He was coming for the Dominique Foxworth live show. He sent us pictures of this weird-ass hotel room that he had. It was a lot going on there. And then next thing you know, that boy Goff is like, I got to go back. It was Tuesday. The show was on a Wednesday. Tuesday, the homie's like, I got to go back. The baby's coming. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Yeah. And then on Thursday morning, I'm like, yo, I've heard nothing about this baby. I'm like, yo, sup with the baby? And he was like, the baby just came. And then we got a picture of the baby. And I made sure that your lady understood that I knew who the real MVP was. And it wasn't you just for jumping on a plane.
I wasn't one. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And yes, like you, if you was on your breaking news game still or ever, if you wanted to, by the way, you ever think about like the places we've lost people that we knew they would have been awesome? Like you've been terrific in your career all the way around. You one of the legends of this thing, but like Bomani Jones, reporter, would have been fire. Just pulling up to press conferences and just ruining people's days if you felt like it. But you had the breaking news both times because I was like, hey, Dom, Bo, gotta go, brother. Next thing you know, going through it, getting back home, trying to make sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, being a present and helpful and hoping father to be. And then as soon as the baby dropped, you hit me right then as well. So yeah, man, baby Nova is here. P is doing great. Everybody's good right now. The sleep deprivation thing hasn't kicked in yet, so everybody's good, man. But yes, I was looking forward to hanging out with y'all, and I had to fit because I saw what you did. I saw the pictures afterwards, and I was like, Bomani pulled out that foreign, that foreign hand sewn thing.
I pulled out that Morocco. And yo, the thing about the Morocco is I got an event in North Carolina, by the way, this weekend. You might still be able to get tickets. Go to eTix, the Basketball Jones at the Rialto Theater in Raleigh on Friday night, January 31st. But I ain't really got that many like fits after now that I got all this cake. You know what I'm saying? After I went and put in the work, you know what I'm saying? I got a little something for you these days, you dig? I ain't got that much to like wear in front of people. And so right now, that coat, which is my favorite article of clothing ever, is the problem is it's fly in a way where it's so noticeable that every time you break it out, somebody go notice that you broke it out. And so I don't know if you watched The Simpsons, but it's Marge's Chanel dress, basically. I'm taking this thing to every outing, every invite, whatever it is. I was thinking about what I got to do this weekend. I'm like, Yep, I think it's coming on the plane with me.
It's a showpiece. It's a showpiece.
That's
the bad part about those kind of things, though, because it's so fly that somebody's going to notice it, and then you're hoping that someone also isn't a hater. Or it's like, hey, man, you wore that 3 months ago. And I'm like, where did we go that I can't just pull it out? It's me showing you how special I think this event is.
Well, hold on. This is what I'm going to say if somebody say you just broke it out 3 months ago. You right, dude.
Well,
I did just break this out a few weeks ago. My man.
Yeah.
You are correct, brother.
Yeah.
Right?
It's usually a guy.
Yeah, no, but you got to start hitting them and be like, when did these rules start applying to us? These is the shackles that they put on themselves. Okay? That's a discussion or whatever that they be having within themselves over there with 2 X chromosomes. Partner, you ain't got to bring that drivel over here. Look, man, I get it, right? Nope, not going to say that because people will take it harshly. I, too, watch The Young and the Restless, but not for the same reasons. All I'm saying is you ain't got to, you can let...
Tambourine playing.
Yeah, they could let me live. You know what I'm saying? They could let me live.
See, how do you feel... All right, so how do you feel, though, as a person who... Would you describe yourself as mildly fashionable, not at all fashionable?
Not at all.
Like you care about fabrics, you care about things that you wear? Because I find myself in this weird place now where I'm doing a lot of caping for especially NBA fashion, which has become its own like subculture, where it's like friends of mine are like, man, can you believe you wearing that? And I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like if I am that rich and want to explore whatever it is I want to, if that's your vibe, like these dudes, you could tell when these dudes just throw on and whatever the mannequin is wearing and you're like, oh, you just want to look stupid out here. But if I want to wear it, baby, that's what it is. I've been telling dudes for years, the way I dress has brought out insecurity in men for a long time. I just don't like it when it's loud.
Yeah, I am not a fashionable sort. I don't really care. I'm just trying to get the job done. I know what quality is on fabrics. I don't want to be out here looking bad. I don't want to be out here looking crazy. If I had a fashion, it's simple, it's sleek, it's classic. Like these are the ways.
You have the body style for that too.
Yeah, see, there we go, right? And so that's where the Morocco jacket is a little bit different. Because it got some bayou to it. You know what I'm saying? Like when I wear that thing, man, I be walking like I walk like what you call it, like a bass line is playing. Like I get the full swang to the side when I'm out here. I wore that to that Stevie Wonder concert I went to with my brother. I went outside to meet him and to walk to the train. He said he saw me walking. He was like, "Who is this guy?" I
can feel it. Yeah. You got to ride that wave, though. Whatever makes you feel great. I had something that I was getting ready to, had a leather, situation on stage. I thought we was going to do the whole thing, but it looked great. It sounded great. You guys did an amazing job, and hopefully I'll be in New York next time for longer than 12, 13 hours, but I'm very pleased with the outcome because I got my baby girl to hang out with now.
There we go. Indeed. Now, I got a question to ask you about Chicago. We brought this up. Y'all got a coach now. You know what I'm saying?
OG Benny Johnson.
I
heard you, by the way.
I just saying, as a Lions fan, first of all, as a Lions fan, he trying to take the whole staff. You know what I'm saying? He it's very interesting. He hired a 28-year-old offensive coordinator named Declan Doyle. If you're not familiar with Declan Doyle, there's no real reason for you to, except his daddy was that strength coach that got fired at Iowa.
You know who his uncle is?
Who is his uncle?
This is one of those things where you find out and you're like, all right, what's going on here? His uncle is none other than Iron Mike Ditka.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's nephew, Sean, somebody look it up. It's nephew, cousin, something like that. But when I read that, I was like, oh, okay.
But at the same time, man, he doing the Dan Campbell, man. He got he got JT Barrett as the quarterback coach. I saw some other choices he made. Like any skepticism I might have had about bringing in Chris Doyle's son, he's like, nah, don't worry about it, man. We good it over here.
Yeah, no, we have retained the title of Chicago Black Bears, right? We got
Yes.
we got Kevin Warren, we got Ryan Poles,
right.
we got a
That's
brother
right.
at quarterback.
That's right.
Yeah, no, all you got. That's why when Thomas Brown was the head coach or interim head coach, I was sitting there. You know how you sitting there watching them like, come on now, come on 7. And you sitting there like, if you don't do, you looking at him like the whole movement is on his shoulders. Like, if you don't win a game, this is never happening again. Right?
But the positive.
You talking about the black up QB? Like we was in here, on some we shall overcome.
The one positive on that is they can't just blame one of y'all. The one negative of that is they can blame all of y'all. They can get all of y'all out of there at one time. Every single clear the deck, start over.
Next thing you know, some Schottenheimer son is bringing him and the rest of his crew and Bill Belichick's kids.
Yes,
we out of there.
And Kevin Warren is kind of behind the 8 ball in the sense that, I mean,
they on his ass, Bo.
But I mean, one thing to remember about him is that he was the commissioner of the Big Ten when the Big Ten made the decision to not play, and he became the face of what became a much larger political sort of issue. And so something I don't think that a lot of people understand about Chicago is that Chicago has a lot of home teams. Obviously, I can rattle them off. But the other home team is the Big Ten Conference, right? It's like half Notre Dame, half Big Ten, but the Big Ten Conference is its own thing. And I always wonder when he got that job with the Bears, how many people still had that association with him? Because he's like the president of the Bears. That's a job that people normally don't really care about. Like you care about polls. You don't really care about the guy that's all the way that high up on the totem, but y'all seem to care.
Well, see, the issues that have been attached to that job is because there's never really been a football person in an organization that has been doing football since the inception of this league, right? And I've talked about it a lot on my pod where if Bomani Jones and shout out to Mac and Mama and if the family Jones was running a laundromat service for 100 years, when it get down to Bomani shouldn't be going outside asking for help, right? Bomani shouldn't need a consultant. Bomani, have you been watching what your family has been doing? So the president of the Bears has kind of been Ted Phillips, right? Ted Phillips, they called him Sweaty Teddy. Every time he was at a press conference, the man was pouring buckets like a Michael Irvin Hall of Fame acceptance speech. You feel me? And all you did was sit there. All right, that's where the ire can be pointed. That's where the blame can be pointed. You ain't gonna get mad at Virginia McCaskey, right? Who wants to win playing that game, right? And then when you finally quote unquote win that game, are you gonna feel good that day? You know what I mean?
But with the old white lady,
yeah. So Ted Phillips became that guy and was that guy forever. And then it got muddied. Okay, how much football stuff is he involved in, like coach selection and all those other things, and GMs lining up contracts with their coaches? It was always mismatched. So when Kevin Warren comes into play, not only was, your boy Jim Harbaugh on the market, but then you remembered what had happened in the Big Ten Conference with COVID and people wanting to play and his interactions, not only with Ohio State, but with Michigan as well. So those weird, there's always something weird in the Bears management system or hierarchy. So, and on top of it, you got hired to build a stadium. 2 years later, we still, hey, where they gonna play next year, right? So yeah, Thomas Brown, Ryan Poles, there's a lot of brothers who have been on the line here for the last year and a half, but I mean, it's Chicago sports.
Well, hold on, y'all not just gonna shoehorn a renovation of Soldier Field through like they did the last time, where this is, so I went to the American Economic Association convention in January of 2003. And somebody came and made a presentation about this. It was like an anti for what had happened. But the bottom line was there's a provision that says that you can't build a new stadium without putting that on the ballot. At least that was the case at the time. But you could do a very thorough renovation of the current stadium without putting it on the ballot. And what they basically did was build new Soldier Field inside old Soldier Field. Like if you're in Soldier Field, there are some places that look like anachronistic there, where it almost looks like a spaceship, and then you get outside and it looks like the Parthenon or the Colosseum, right? Yeah, they did that, and so they jammed it through and they got the renovation done. Okay, it sounds like Chicago. You tell me if I'm wrong here. Everybody's trying to get themselves, now that they'll put Super Bowls in cold places, everybody wants a dome now because you can get you a Super Bowl and you can get you some Final Fours. You can get your hands on that sort of situation. That's the game that they seem to be trying to play now. But it doesn't seem like anybody in Chicago, even the people in the suburbs, really want something that's in the suburbs. They want it in Chicago.
Yeah, this is the only city where all the teams play within the city limits. There's 5 of them as well, right? There's nobody going out to the burbs to watch basketball or baseball or hockey or football. The renovation did, and we made fun of it at the time. It looked like a spaceship landed in Soldier Field, and the issue is the city owns the space. So for a long time now, the Bears have had the worst turf in all of the NFL. Is because you could have a Bears game, and then you could have a high school football game, and then you could have a concert, and then you could have a soccer match, I should say. Like there's so many things that happen that they don't control all the money that's coming and going in and out of that place, and 2, they don't control the facility. So if you want to control the facility, there's acres and acres of land on the rail yard in certain areas here in Chicago. And I don't want to local you out too much, but going all the way out to Arlington Heights or going all the way out to some other suburb, it would benefit obviously the ownership group and the organization financially because retractable roof, all the other events like you mentioned. But in the end, these places also don't want to subsidize a billionaire's playpen. And that's what they're asking for. So, it's the weird economics of sports, especially football, which is a religion in this country and also in this city that is hard to break. So I wish the best to Kevin Warren, but I went to one Bears game this year. That was the first one I had gone to in half a decade. Easy. It's nothing that I need. I don't need to be at Soldier Field. There are some people who need that, but it would be weird seeing the Bears play in another space, unlike those teams that are already used to that, like the Giants playing in East Rutherford and all those, and Jets playing in East Rutherford,
There's an irony to all the sports teams playing in Chicago and all those white people fleeing Chicago. They're like, no, y'all stay right there. Don't y'all come over here. Y'all stay right where y'all at.
Building a little perimeter.
Yeah, I don't
A-Town style.
Yeah, they're like, nah, we'll come to you. Like, I don't, there's something I think a whole lot of people hadn't necessarily thought about. But with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, I guess the first thing is, what did you think of year 1 of Caleb Williams? Like, as somebody who watched this with a closer eye than I ever would have. Like, how Jaden Daniels seems to have passed him. Now, one thing that's worth noting is a lot of people had Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams to begin with, like going into this draft process. When I watched Caleb Williams, he didn't look bad, but he didn't look great. But I didn't watch enough to like really get a full feel on what's going on there.
Caleb Williams came in with a ton of hype, as we all know, and of course the best set of skill position players that a rookie has ever been blessed with. And then the season starts, and then you realize you need people to block. And then you realize that you need a coaching staff that I equated to mechanics doing surgery. His 2 offensive play callers got fired at some point during the season. His head coach got fired. He dealt with a lot of things that you don't see at USC or Oklahoma, which is first game of the season, Jeffrey Simmons running your ass down. This ain't everybody the man out here. So when we watch those off the script or, improvisational plays and extended plays and highlights, that's going to happen once or twice, maybe in an NFL game. When it's time to sit in that pocket and get rained on, I'll give him this, but tough as nails. Like the dude played every single game and got his ass beat. Some of that ass whooping was on his own merit, though. The things that he has to recognize that he just simply hadn't seen. And Bo, like there are play callers who look forward to playing against rookie quarterbacks because it's like, hey, it might be someday, but it ain't going to be today. And you could tell every week it was a new test. And sometimes he would pass those tests and other times he was bringing the crayon with him. So he was going to get all the answers wrong anyway. Like I'm looking forward to seeing Ben Johnson, and this is going to sound crazy, turn him more into Jared Goff, right? Like Jared Goff is a surgeon if everything clean. If 58 doing his job, if the rest of that crew doing their job, if the backs are picking up, that's the one thing that I think people didn't talk about enough this year for the Lions is how quickly Jahmyr Gibbs became acclimated to pass protection, which is I can get him in here. He's in here on any down now. You don't know if he's going to get it or not because we trust him. And, of course, David Montgomery is a bull when it comes to that department. So, like, getting him more acclimated to saying, you know what, I'm going to take the cheese. I'm going to make a profit on this play. Keep my feet where they're supposed to be. Instead of, okay, this is a 4-second now play, which no one draws up in the NFL. He did a lot of those. So a lot of it was on his plate, but both the plays that he made, the games that he won almost on his own, like that Washington game, nobody was playing well, including Jaden Daniels. And then all of a sudden, fourth quarter roll around, and Caleb Williams like, all right, this, I guess, is the time for me to be the dude. What happens, though, is Tyreek Stevenson makes his faux pas. Yeah, and that created the season for them. So I like Caleb Williams a lot. I understand why people were high on Jaden Daniels. I still worry about how slight that young man is and if he's going to be able to take a pounding. But I'm good with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams would be a very, very good to Pro Bowl level quarterback within a couple of years' time here if Ben Johnson is the guy that we think he is. But, you know, the guys that you win because of and the guys that you win with, hell, we still looking at Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson like, hey, they're going to win because of y'all in some of these games. So there's only a couple, maybe one or two guys that are like that. And then I think he long-term will settle into that second tier guys.
Well, I think we both know, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier, the issue is whether they can get their line situation straight.
Man.
Because reproducing what Johnson did in Detroit, and look, you know, you've heard me talk about him the last week and change, but I mean, I'm not stupid. He's really good. That scheme was really excellent, but they was moving furniture up front. The Bears got all these, they got DJ Moore, they got a Dunze outside, right?
Mr. Hatfish himself, Keenan Allen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But if you ain't moving no furniture, man, I don't know how the Ben Johnson thing works if you're not moving furniture. Right? Look, Ben Johnson thing was so cold that when Sam Laporta made that crazy catch in the game against Washington, the part that people didn't get was Washington double-teamed the eligible tackle. They ran a bracket coverage on number 70.
Shout out to Skip.
Number 70, who was running like a crossing route, too. It wasn't even like one of your typical routes that you get off one of them big boys. That's how just befuddled Ben Johnson had people trying to figure out what to do with them. But if they not moving that furniture, and by the way, not only do you need to be able to move furniture, some of them trick plays he's doing, like just because you can run a hook and lateral with Penei Sewell, that don't mean you can do that with literally anybody else, okay? They kind of only made one of those that we've got out here right now.
Yeah, you got to so in basketball and football, especially for me, guys get hired for what they do. What is it that you do, especially in football? I run this West Coast vertical threat offense, this, that, and the other. And then you find out, is that all you do? Is that can you make do? Can you look at your left tackle and go, you know what, Braxton Jones is an average to above average left tackle, so now I have to gear my offense to make sure that he is not put in any precarious positions, especially with the right ends that are in this division, right? Like he even said in his introductory press conference, I'm not going to slam the playbook down and be like, this is what it is. He said, I'm going to look at y'all, and this is what y'all can do. This is what y'all can't do. The most important people are in the locker room. It all sounds good. And then you get on the grass and you find out, okay, I need this, this, and that, but I don't have it yet. Can I coach above it? And let's face it, you look at that division, you got three of the best coaches in the entire damn league. Dan Campbell skin's on the wall now. Like he got people believing, yeah, if you are 10 years old, you don't know Detroit not being decent. You know, like I've known Detroit to be an 8-8, 7-9 franchise for the majority of my lifetime. And shout out to Herman Moore and Barry Sanders and Scott Mitchell and that, you know, ambiguously biracial Wayne Fonts thing that they had going on for a little bit.
Wasn't that ambiguous about Wayne Fonts? Wayne Fonts is from an African country.
See,
like,
look at you.
It is amazing. The Wayne Fonts thing. And by the way, Vinny points this out. The best thing about Wayne Fonts was it was three of them. It was three brothers, right?
The Fonts boys.
But none of them pronounced their names the same. They all used a different pronunciation. And so Wayne Fonts is Cape Verdean. I think he's from Boston in that area. And You know what that means. Like, I don't understand how he avoided being the answer to the trivia question. How exactly was he playing it? Was he passing? Was he just not bringing it up? Like, what exactly the discussion was? But if I drop Wayne Fontes in Louisiana and say his name is Wayne Fontes, Fontesse, you know where he at. You know what team he play for.
There you go. That's the Fontes boy over at Slidell right now.
Yeah,
you just go check him out.
That's what I'm saying. And so, it's actually interesting because the Lions got super sorry with Matt Millen when he came in there in that run. But you're
when he started drafting all them wide receivers.
Right, but you're like late 80s through the 90s. They were decent, just fine. Like the idea that the Lions betrayed Barry Sanders. No, not quite. Not quite. They were pretty good when they had Barry Sanders. Like they were not that terrible. And the first few years of the Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford pairing, they were not as terrible as advertised. They weren't quite good enough, but they weren't quite as terrible, I think, as was advertised. But no, when they had been bad, they had been bad. And then right before Dan Campbell got in here, cheeks.
And Kevin O'Connell is doing his thing in Minnesota, about to lose. Well, we'll see how many people off his staff he loses. But you got some dudes now. So Ben Johnson has got his hands full, not only with the roster, but with the rest of the division.
You forgot about his new nemesis.
Who's that?
What's his name? Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur, calling him out, talking crazy.
Can we run this clip right now? I've never seen anything like this at a pro press conference. This is Ben Johnson talking about beating the Packers.
I know this is the toughest division of football right now. There's 3 teams that made the playoffs this year. I've got tremendous amount of respect for the coaches and the players in this league. Haven't competed against them for the last 6 years. Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, you're talking about 2 guys that are up for Coach of the Year awards as the season ends here. And to be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
Yo, bruh, like, I got to be honest. Ben Johnson got a little more charisma than I expected him to have because, I thought he was just coming with the full dork, like the Josh McDaniels fears exist with some people. But he came in, he came out there swinging.
I'm fine with it because when you talk that way, you know every day that you got to back that up. And when you don't back it up, then we on your ass. Listen, I miss, and I'm going to sound like an old man, I miss the time where coaches had personalities, where these players were allowed to have personalities, where you find out that a coach had a personality in a random moment. We're like, all right, got to keep my eye on him. Now we know so much about everybody via social media that nobody is going to try to make a mistake because they fear that it'll hinder them getting a job. It's like, no, that's why the Anthony Edwards thing is so refreshing to everybody and including me, because it's like, hey, this dude talking like he don't know he ain't supposed to talk like that. And I'm down with it. I'm down with people ruining brands, building them, all those things. Like, let's get back to it. Like, you remember this, the way things traveled for us as sports fans, as opposed to how they travel now. Now, one, everybody is filled in top to bottom on your bio. You can't really explore and learn yourself in front of people on the stage. And you got guys like Ben Johnson who, he said something about another coach in the division. Maybe he don't like that motherfucker. Like, maybe it's okay. Like, I'm okay with Buddy Ryan on the sideline punching out his offensive coordinator. Shout out to Kevin Gilbride. Like, I'm okay with my sports having a little bit of human in it, and also me thinking this is part of the entertainment experience. If Ben Johnson goes on to win 5 games over the next 2 years, guess what they're going to play? Him talking shit about Matt LaFleur. So if you cold, it shouldn't matter either way. I'm down with it, man. More of it in my diet.
Put a pin in that because we need to sell some advertisement, but I have thoughts on this matter. The NBA is in full swing and the big game is right around the corner, which means you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite teams only on Prize Picks. You can make a Prize Picks lineup between the NFL and the NBA in as little as 60 seconds. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hearing it from me, let's hear from our expert picker. Hey, Sean, how the picks been going for you?
You know, Bo, I'm getting a little backlash from the audience who haven't been making as much on Prize Picks from my picks. But look, I'm gonna be back in this month of February because not only with the NBA and NFL, I can make picks between both leagues. With the flex play, I can still cash out if my lineup isn't perfect. And as always, make sure you stick around for the end of each show to hear my upcoming picks. And if you know me, I'm always picking more. And if you were smart, maybe you'd fade them and take less sometimes.
That's right. They got choices. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, we are back with Jason Goff of The Ringer. We were just talking about coaching and the idea, or just we miss having that level of personality there, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, and I think you can be pretty sure I 100% agree with you about this. I liked it better when everybody was a little more it's not just that everybody's so corporate now, is that they all been corporate forever. That somebody has seen the vision of what it is. Because like the idea of media training, I hate the idea of media training. I hate the idea of media training because I work in media and I admit that I sound very much so like a burglar who hates burglar alarms. Like the whole purpose of this is so I can't burgle no more, right? Like what they are trying to teach them is how to not say anything. That's the whole point. And I have made this point. I said this at this New York Times gathering that I was at, and I didn't feel like people really understood and got where I was coming from. I don't think that the money is in not saying anything. That is a game to protect money. If you already that dude, right? If you already this guy that's at the top, that's the game that you use to protect your money. But if you just a dude in the league, you don't get no money by being quiet. You don't get no money by being boring. You get money by showing people who you are, right? And so this panel I was on was talking about the idea of brand building, and it was basically a bunch of athletes and me, which was a little bit awkward, right? But I was listening to them, and their whole point is everything so much was like, well, if I mess up and I say this, then that'll mess up this brand deal and that brand deal. And so the way that I interpreted that they were thinking about branding was literally about the idea of creating relationships with brands and getting money. Where to me, the idea of having a brand is establishing a personality around something so that when people see that thing, they know what that thing means. They know what that thing stands for. They know what that thing represents, okay? So for guys our age, I point to 3 examples of how to do the brand thing that have been long-lasting, enduring brands. Now, the first is probably the most obvious, which is Michael Jordan, right? That is. Right. But the thing about Mike is Mike never said anything offensive, but Mike said things. Like you go look at interviews, Mike is avoiding third rail stuff. But Mike was interesting. Mike was engaging. Mike was charming. Mike had things to say. But 2 other enduring brands that are a bit more impressive to me than the Michael Jordan brand. And they last and they exist to this day, and they are still gigantic players in sports on the basis of the brands that they built when they were players.
I think I know one that, well, I'm thinking
Go with one. Go with one. Give me the one you got.
For me, it would be Magic Johnson.
Oh, I was not thinking of Magic. I was not. Yeah. But that's there.
Because I was thinking we
met
him to now and everything in between.
Yes. And you know what? It's a different kind of branding because Magic used it not to get endorsing money. Like Magic money, a different kind of money. You know what I'm saying?
Magic, the days I'm at home is the days I'm not vacationing.
Yes. Magic playing a different game, right? Okay. So the 2 I was thinking of were Charles Barkley and Deion Sanders. Like what Deion has pulled off, and look, everybody knows my criticisms of Deion. They have existed. They largely are moot at this point because the Jackson State thing is in the rearview mirror in such a way that there's no need for me to go back there, right? Where he is and what he's pulled off is not just on the basis of the brand of Deion Sanders, but Deion Sanders being a genius in knowing how to build brands, right? Like the thing that I don't think people get with Deion Sanders, and look, I think Travis Hunter made a mistake with the way he's handled his relationship, and I don't know that Deion advised him. But it sounds like Deion advised him to do that YouTube show, because what Deion has done with branding that people haven't really caught is that Deion done had his hand in some kind of reality show basically every moment of the last 20 years. Deion got this show on Tubi with the woman Rossi Diaz. He's on there, which is to say that Deion always takes that brand to where women are. You know what I mean? Like, that's the next level of
if the
fame
women are
for
there,
somebody.
the men will follow.
Yeah, but that's a whole, like, he got the dudes from being Deion. But he goes and takes it over there. But everything we watch in sports and all of this is on the basis of a brand that he created in his dorm room in 1987. It was a much more obnoxious brand when he was younger. But you know what the Deion brand stands for, Deion and money. But you know it. You know what you're getting, and boom, it's clear. And Deion ain't never really talked that much about important stuff, but Deion talked. Deion was not afraid of offending you. And the other one, Charles Barkley, this is the brand that he's had since 1984. The brand happens to be being Charles Barkley. If Charles Barkley had chosen not to do that and to be some quiet guy through the whole thing, none of this happens. Charles Barkley has made hundreds of millions of dollars on the basis of having an actual personality. And so what I think happens is, and I'm sorry, I know I've been talking for a long time for this to be a two-person podcast.
I appreciate this.
But I think that people misunderstand. Like, I think I've talked to you about this. Pick a year between the year 2024 or like 2010 and 2020. Just pick a year.
2012.
All right, 2012. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the 2012 recruits, top basketball recruits.
Okay.
Because I found something once. I was on Basketball Reference, and if you mess around and you take that list, right, and then you sort the results you get from that list, sort it by win shares.
Okay.
And what that does is it gives you a handle on, like, who's had a real NBA career. Not just played some games, not just been around here, but like a real NBA career, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even have to give you the total on the win shares. I'm going to just roll the names and go down, okay? Now, 2012 was a really bad year, just to be clear, all the recruiting rankings. Steven Adams has the most win shares from that class.
Wow.
Steven Adams, Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Anderson, Jeremy Grant, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, Nerlens Noel, Gary Harris, Willie Cauley-Stein, TJ Warren, Alex Caruso. That's like 10 people. You know what I'm saying? Getting to know superstars, right?
Right.
Why would those guys be quiet? But you know, the whole way as they've come up in the game, the media training has been, don't say nothing because you're going to mess up the money. What money? The only money that you're going to get is from playing basketball, unless you get out here and have established yourself a personality, and now you got a chance to move in to some other stuff, right? And so when you talk about coaches, for example, coaches were the brands. They were the brands of teams. Think about this in college. How many college coaches are actually, how many college coaches do you have an opinion about? How many NFL coaches do you have an opinion about? When we were growing up, like especially with you in Chicago, Mike Ditka was a super brand. Mike Ditka was out here selling everything. But the coaches meant something. Andy Reid means something right now, right? That whole mustache and everything, we've seen that for a while. He means something. Kyle Shanahan kind of means something, but it's like all football. But but there's no, these guys ain't giving me nothing. They ain't giving me nothing.
It's all plastic.
Know.
It's all copy and paste. It's all press play.
Except for my guy. My guy Dan is out here giving you something,
and guess what?
And your guy Ben seems to be out here giving us something.
But that's the thing, Dan, because Dan was treated like a meathead. Let's keep it funky. In Miami, is like, look at this, look who they gave the job to.
I had him all wrong.
But that's the thing, you're programmed to have him wrong. We're programmed to think after a while, well, if it's one of the Ryan boys or if it's somebody who has any bit of a pulse, it's like for me as a kid before this new age of, this black revolution in football where half the quarterbacks are black and you got now a handful of coaches who are black. Like I remember for a long time looking at Art Shell and thinking to myself, that brother got some stories. That brother will put his hands on you and kill you, but that brother has to stay earnest and measured. And then for a while it became, this is who you hire. This is the kind of coach you hire if you are a black head coach in football, whether it be college or professional. You had to be a Ray Rhodes type. You had to be somebody who, who's my man that Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell, you look at Jim Caldwell's record, we don't see Jim Caldwell. Guess what? Everybody, great football man. I think of Jim Caldwell as a terrific coach. Don't know shit about Jim Caldwell. You know why? Because if you're programmed that, okay, if y'all gonna get this shot, or you could be the ranting, raving, dude. And I'm not putting him in this particular category, but Herm Edwards. Yeah. Herm Edwards was the guy who actually said some things, had a great personality, good looking dude, like all these things. And the moment it's time to go, guess what? It's going to be hard for you to get back in here. So if the programming has been to make sure we squeeze every bit of juice out of this player or every bit of juice out of this coach and you tamper it down, that's why when these dudes, especially on these college campuses, when these dudes get wild and go to the wrong party or, something, a Larry Eustace type of situation happens. Right. Like, no, these dudes has been these dudes forever. They just have to hide it and have to hold it back in hopes that maybe their talent will get them where they're supposed to be, and their outside affects or outside, interests won't. Like, it's all trash to me. It's all vanilla. Like, I don't like it. It feels like a simulation. It doesn't, the fun has been zapped out of it, especially when you talk about basketball. Like, basketball coaches used to talk shit. They used to get in front of a camera and be like, that dude ain't playing well. Ask him why he not playing. Those things used to happen, and now it's, it's way more corporate than it should be.
Give us something, man. Like, I'm convinced that's what people want. That's what they want everywhere else. They don't care if anybody good at anything anymore. They just care if they like them or not. Give the people something to like. Like, it's interesting. Pete Carroll going to the Raiders is going to be a fascinating sort of thing because Pete, in his own way, Pete gives you personality, right? Yeah. It's a fascinating career arc where Pete Carroll went from being boy wonder, and it didn't work when he was boy wonder, and now he is stuck around long enough to be the old man in the league or whatever. But there is, even like, you see Pete on the sidelines and he's giving you all that energy and everything else. It's something. There's a real personality that's associated with him, and it then goes down to his teams. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with the Raiders in that regard. Mm-hmm. You got to give us something. Bill Belichick, who's not my guy, he was giving us a personality. He wasn't giving us personality, but it was a personality, right? Like, I would take his facetious, I'm not giving you anything, over just kind of boringness. Mike Tomlin gives you something even while being boring. But I just think all of these guys, we'd all rather you give us a little bit of personality. Nobody's going to remember that dumb shit you said. We too busy finding the next person that says some dumb shit. We always finding somebody else to put on the screen.
Yeah. That I'm watching that Dynasty on Apple TV, that documentary. For whatever reason, I stumbled upon it. And it's crazy. You said Bill Belichick's personality. Like, you see all of it. And then you see when the winning starts and that collar start to tighten. I don't give a damn how used to winning you are. And then you get called a cheater. And then maybe the greatest quarterback.
Everything changed.
Everything. Like, he was a dude who come in there and, mess around a little bit with the media. And then he got called a cheater. He's like, wait a minute. It's like, you motherfuckers don't know how cold I am?
That was the most interesting thing about that 10-part documentary series. And I watched it all. The most interesting part to me was not about everybody throwing Belichick under the bunch, which I actually thought was an unfair characterization of that documentary.
Yeah, they treated him like he was Aaron Hernandez's bag man half the time.
But Bill Belichick chose not to speak for himself. And once he chose not to speak for himself, other people's stories stood. Like, he was like, Omerta, baby. He was like, we don't snitch. And so he chose not to snitch at all, and then it went from there. But to me, the most interesting thing was he was not always this antisocial character. Hey, man, this man out here pulling them on airplanes, helping them with their philosophy papers. Clearly he got some rap. It all stopped with Spygate. After Spygate, he turned into that guy.
Yeah. And we've seen it happen with players where it's time for you to lose that cuddly nonsense because this is the professional ranks for whatever reason, whether it be your injuries or poor play. Like, I mean, I know nobody cares about it nationally, but here in the city, you got a 4th pick in the draft right now, and Patrick Williams, who for the first time people are asking him questions like, "Hey man, do you think you could play?" And he's answering, "No, I got game." And it's like, wait a minute, these 4 years don't prove that. Like, there's there's a time where you see people in their career arcs where I'm proving to everybody and myself how cold I am. And then if you are cold, the second step of that is, oh man, I'm tired of proving to you motherfuckers how cold I am. Like, y'all ain't gonna just keep questioning me. Like, I remember Steph Curry. I remember before Steph Curry went to the Garden and burnt down the Knicks, like Iman Shumpert told it, the birth of Steph Curry's like real Steph Curry revolution. Before that, Steph Curry was the dude who was really fun to watch with bad ankles.
Yes.
And they signed him to that extension. People like, hey, you sure about them ankles and all those other things? And then he got on that LeBron time where it's like, hey, you cold, but when you going to win something here? Like, that second step is always tough for people to navigate, where it's like, oh, you questioning me now? This ain't fun. This is a business. Do I love this anymore? Shit, I got to do this 3 times a week now. Like, you start to see those gears start to grind in people's heads, and it's, it's a monster. That's why, for the most part, hey, go out there, have a good time. You are a millionaire and you are young. Enjoy yourself.
I wish we got more real Steph Curry, because like every time me and Vinny would do a podcast and talk about Steph Curry, I wouldn't say we get something wrong, but we wouldn't get it right, and Steph would go take whatever little opinion I offered in front of the world and wipe his light-skinned ass with it. And he, like, when he sees Vinny, he walked up to Vinny once, not bad for a assistant player, huh? I think this is after the championship. Like, Vinny catches all of these things from Steph. I can't imagine what it'll be like whenever I run into Steph. I haven't run into Steph forever. Like, it'll be crazy when that happens. But I wish he'd give us that Steph more than this Steph for everybody to love. Nah, dog, give me that stuff. I hate that I ain't heard him never say nothing sideways about winning all them championships on LeBron's watch.
See, he's the kind of selfish motherfucker that keep it to himself too, right? Like, yes. there won't be some expose documentary or documentary where he's doing his like last dance thing where he was like, LeBron blocked that shot and looked at me and I took that personal. You know what I mean? He's going to keep it to himself.
How dope would it be if Steph Curry wrote like the Miles Davis autobiography of basketball autobiographies? Like, the Steph Curry book comes out, and then next thing you know, he's just flaming everybody, like starting with Monte Ellis and going all the way down.
Can you believe that this mother from Alabama thought he could be?
Hold on. He start by flaming them boys at Davidson for not getting him the ball on the last shot against Kansas, right? He starts there. Then he just goes through and sets fire to everybody. Everybody.
I want to send a shout. The forward is to Jerry West, right? Like, yes. I want to thank the one person outside of was it Bob McKillop? Who was the Davidson coach back then?
Bob McKillop.
Yeah, I'm sad that I remember that. I want to thank Jerry West. He's the only person outside of Bob McKillop and Wardell Sr. who knew that I was the coldest motherfucker in the gym. Yeah. And then you just start from here on out. You know what I mean?
Hey, let me tell you something. Maybe Wardell knew he was the coldest dude in the gym, but I am not sure he did either. Hey, look, man, it's cool. Like, my brother talks about this. Like, it worked out well for me in the end. I'm not saying I'm NBA levels of this, but when I was growing up, my brother was like, Dad, we got a problem, man. Bo tell jokes, but he ain't funny. He was really afraid that this was going to be like a life thing that was going to happen to me. Now, I believe that I would have been socialized out of it if I was truly bad at it. But, I hosted a comedy show that got 2 seasons on HBO. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a couple jokes. I ain't got all the jokes, but I got enough jokes that I can come tell on here that I've been telling for 15 years and people will still laugh, right? But my brother loves me, but he didn't see it coming that way, right? I don't know if Dale really knew that it was going to go like this. What if we find out that Dale really thought that Seth was going to be the one, right? Like, what if we find that out? They used to have Steph out there passing the ball to Seth so that Seth could get it right.
Hey, no, I figured all that. I'm thinking about the conversation between your brother and your dad, where all of a sudden your dad's eyes start to change, that gleam, that shimmer starts to remove, and like, am I going to be raising a failed stand-up comedian? like, oh shit. Like the conversation stops in that moment between your brother and your dad, and it starts in your dad's head in the movie of Bomani Jones's life, where his dad all of a sudden had to think of, oh no, this boy about to embarrass the name.
Let me tell you something, brother. And I know this in real life. It's happened to me in professional circumstances. I think it may have happened to you in similar places, but you'll understand what I'm saying. There ain't nothing that can quite put a strain on a relationship quite like, hey man, that shit ain't funny. The thing that does worse than that shit ain't funny is that shit ain't cute. Right? But like when you dealing with somebody, what do you do when you just be like, yo, man, I just don't think that shit is funny.
And they give it to you like and they give it to you with no emotion. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's just your thought, man. I just don't think that shit is funny. And this person keeps trying to give you the funny repeatedly. And you're just like, bro, I just don't think this is funny. That hurt people's feelings, man. And I understand it, man. Funny is a tricky thing.
I have, you made me think about an instance in 1993 in my parents' basement, where I won't name his name right now, but the people who know and who are close to me know who I'm talking about. A buddy of mine came over the crib. You know, I had the pool table in the basement, you know, hanging out or whatever. And I'm jamming. My dad has, you know, floor to ceiling speakers. Like he had the big house system set. He was the DJ when he first came to this country. So 700 records, you know, I put a record on and we have the tape player. And my buddy, out of nowhere, I think I was playing Otis Redding. I was in the old souls back then. My buddy stopped cigarettes and coffee while we playing pool. I don't know why a 13-year-old is in this mode in this time in my life.
Because you live in Chicago.
And yeah, everything is a Dead President soundtrack, right?
Yes.
So I just hear the song stop and I hear his mixtape begin. And I had to look him in his eyes and go, hey man, this ain't yours. This ain't for you. This is not your game. And I gave him his mixtape back. It also reminds me of a time where my uncle looked at me once, and I won't say why, as a child, he goes, so you gonna choose to be a lame? And in that moment, I knew it was over, right? It just ain't funny, right? It just ain't funny. Hand back your mixtape, and so you choosing to be a lame? And walked out the door. These are the things that resonate with real people and real men. You know?
Yeah, luckily, my brother gave me room to grow. You know what I'm saying? He allowed me to...
Not my uncles.
I'm lucky. I'm glad he allowed me to move into the space. Because let me tell you, man, I tell this story too. I was doing Highly Questionable with Dan. And let's just say I was in a real good mood that day. And we had Manny Pacquiao as a guest. And you guys have to remember that Manny Pacquiao fancies himself as a singer. And Jimmy Kimmel used to have Manny Pacquiao on singing like 1980s, Sunny 99.1 soft rock kind of ballads. And if you've never heard Manny Pacquiao sing any of these songs, you got to understand, he's terrible. He's really, really bad, but he lives a life. He's insulated in such a way where there is nobody who is going to tell him that he is terrible. And so he keeps putting out these tapes. And so we have Manny Pacquiao on Highly Questionable. Then somehow it comes up that he has a new album coming out and he has a new single. And Dan says, well, we'd like to hear you sing some of this new single. I'm like, oh God, don't do this. Don't do this. Please.
Not in the mood that I'm in right now.
Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. And so he starts singing.
You felt yourself losing self-control?
Oh man. And so I'm trying my best to like, how am I going to hold this together? Right. And so I'm like smiling and I'm going like this. And now I got to start dropping my head, bro, because I'm holding it. And now it's coming up my chest. The cough, the laughs, and I'm trying to hold them. And I'm trying to nod my head and bob, and I'm trying to make it happen. And then I just can't help it, man. I start laughing. I try to stop it. Dan reach across the table and punch me in the arm. And it won't be, he didn't hit me in the face, just to be clear if you watch the video. Right. But it had the effect of that right there. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Little splash of water.
Yeah. I shook it back. And Dan's mad at me. And I'm like, mad at me, man. Fuck you, mad at you.
You set it up. You threw the oop.
You the one that man. I give you one more. It's been enough years.
You're laughing at the champ.
Yeah, it's been enough years, man. That either the protagonist in the story got a problem with it, it's whatever. So I was in a wedding once. I'm the best man. This woman, I was, best man, so I'm there with the groom. And a woman, the bride, had an uncle that she wanted to sing at the wedding. He'd always said he was going to sing at her wedding. And he decided that he was going to sing. And he was singing For You I Will by Kenny Lattimore. And I was at the rehearsal, and whoo.
You knew it was going to be a show?
Yeah, For You. Not For You I Will. That's a Monica song, but For You. You know that joint, right?
For You.
Yeah. The very wedding song, right? They don't make wedding songs no more, but a very wedding song. And I remember
John Legend got a whole album full of them. That's all he's doing anyway.
Not at my wedding. But anyway, so, he's singing, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here, right? And I don't think I fully did the math on how things were going to go, but I like weddings. Everybody's happy. It was a very emotional time. Everybody's all pleasant. And I'm standing up there, and the bridesmaids with the groomsmen are coming. They, come down the middle, spread to the side, come down the middle, spread to the side, come down the middle. Mm-hmm. And now I see the bride. And so I'm there and I'm like, cool. She about to come down. I'm ready for Here Comes the Bride. But it wasn't Here Comes the Bride. It was For You. And I had completely forgotten since the night before about this development. And it happens. And brother, I'm like, how am I going to do this?
The ticking time bomb had started.
How am I? And it's taking forever because she's soaking up this moment. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to just start smiling. And so I start smiling. And then I'm like, damn, I got to smile some more. And then I smile some more. And then I'm not lying to you. I smiled as hard as I could. My smile, I was in there looking like the Jack Nicholson Joker. I got my shit all the way up as tight as it'll
Jigsaw
go. Oh my God, my eyes are barely open because I'm just trying to channel it into this smile. And that turns into tears. And I'm like, oh my God.
And they're like, man, Bomani really is into this wedding.
That's what I'm saying. This woman told me after that she thought I was just so emotionally wrapped up in the wedding. And I was like, yeah, baby, you're right.
Were you also in a good mood in that moment, by the way?
Exquisite.
So you got to learn the game plan now, Bo, with some incredibly funny shit is on the way.
I forgot.
You got that's bad self-scouting, Bo. You got to know when some funny shit is getting ready to happen, smiling ain't the way for you. You got to think of something hurtful. You got to think of something painful. You got to think about like those early Braves fan days.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like, when people talk about doing a deed and they think about something else, I'm like, stop being a weirdo.
That was the analogy I was thinking of. You was telling me to think about baseball.
Yeah, do something else. Yeah, don't smile because the smile gonna lead to the laugh. And then, people will think you're tender at the wedding, and then,
I was fine. I was fine with them thinking I was tender. I could live with that. Anything other than what it was, I just didn't want to be rude. That was all it came down to.
I was worried that you were going to be looked at like an asshole by the end of that story.
So was I. But no, instead, I was looked at like a modern man.
Hey, because you are. Can I say something? Because I know you're about to rush me up out of here like the bum I am. But I want to say this. Over the duration and the reimagination of this podcast over the last few years or so, I see a gentler, softer side of Bomani.
I'm actually trying.
No, I'm not even bullshitting you right now. Like, there was a time when you was on everybody's ass, and if something was going down, I was racing to hear you talk about it. Now I race to hear you talk about these more lighthearted in fancy free thing. Like, we still dealing in the same, sandbox that is this country, and America season, whatever, 245 that just started, about to be a blockbuster seemingly, right? And we always gonna have the serious shit to talk about. But man, I feel like you building this nice little cradle, little nest of love and happiness and vulnerability, man. Dog, you are a trailblazer, to say the least, my guy.
We should focus on. I think we should give more attention to the things that make us feel good and the things that bring us together. That's where I have tried to move what I'm doing in the direction of it. You know what I'm saying? I hope that people appreciate them feelings, but I will tell you this. As I have become kinder and gentler, the internet has not. No. The internet, in fact, has moved in the opposite direction. I'm on. It's like poop. People go on one way, world go on another. You know what I'm saying?
It's nasty. It's nasty. I really don't engage anymore. Like, for instance, a lot of people, and my child's birth has shown me like how weird people can be, because I've been off. I do the pre and post game show for the Bulls here in Chicago, and people have been like, "Hey man, you got fired? What happened? You haven't been at work. Everything okay?" And I haven't responded to any of them, because if you listen to my pod, or if you listen when I hang out with you or Dominique, like, people, the people that need to know what's going on with me. And then you get the people, man, we can't wait to see a picture of the baby. Sir, you are someone who has listened to me as a child, now into an adult. Why do you think that this is important to me? Like, the internet is a very, very useful but increasingly weird place. And these social media platforms, like, shout out to them. I don't know if I would be on any of them if I wasn't in this industry. And in fact, I look forward to purging the Facebook list once a week, where it's like, oh, I don't know this person. You don't deserve to see anybody in my family or anybody around me. In fact, I'm thinking of doing this, Bo. You know how they have purges, like, the movie Purge, and people have like fancied the idea? I think once a year, it's just maybe an internet experience or internet experiment. I think once a year we should just open up every zoo in a major city and just see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, just let the animals run around for a little bit, and whoever come back. Whoever don't. Like, if you want the internet to be a crazy place, to be a madhouse, to be a zoo, let these animals that y'all been having in bondage for all these years do that as well.
I'll tell you about this later, but I'm going to try something about this internet stuff, because I think we're all addicted to scrolling, or a significant number of us are addicted 100%. To scrolling. And even if it's not, I found that when I was not scrolling, I had a period where I was off the socials because I was really locking in on game theory. And I then replaced it by scrolling the news app. You know what I mean? Like, I went to find something else. And I've been doing this longer than phones, because I was trying to be a freelance writer, and I used to just sit up on the internet trying to find stuff to write all the time. Like, that would be, at a very difficult time in my life. That's how I would fill the time, was by doing this. So this is a long-standing sort of thing to work on or whatever. But I'm going to try something. I'm going to tell you if it works after it goes. But ladies and gentlemen, that's Jason Goff. Yeah, that's right. That's Jason Goff. Check him out at The Ringer. Also, pregame, postgame for the Chicago Bulls. Congratulations, my brother. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing more pictures. A little Nova, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Hate that I missed you guys 2 weeks ago now in New York, but I got a terrific gift, terrific present. Looking forward to hanging out with the family. And
it allowed me to be your wife's new favorite friend of yours.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. This is, hey, Bo want me to come outside. Is it cool? Yeah, don't worry. Mm-hmm. I'm working on that. I'm working on that.
No. I'm making it clear to her. We all on the same team. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You ain't got to worry about me. She know my jersey's in the rafters, man. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I won already. I'm cool. I'm here to help. That's what I'm here for.
Yes,
but
sir.
My brother, I appreciate you. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. Sean, you handling everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Hit the voicemail line, 323-596-7767. We're talking about coaches with personality. Tell us the most ridiculous thing you ever heard a high school or college coach say to you. I know I could think of a few over here. It involves the phrase, you look like shit, you played like shit, and on the bus ride home, y'all ain't about to say shit. That was to the freshman team. Anyway, remember, follow the right time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.